Alright, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about some cool videos that were posted, and as a big part of kind of what I do on YouTube and kind of what I'm trying to build is that I like, there's a very few select people that I follow on YouTube: Jason Blaha, Johnny Candido, basically a lot of the power lifters, and I just like their information. I like Jason Blaha's channel specifically because he talks a lot, and I kind of like hearing other people's opinion that can articulate words well, and I kind of want to do the same thing. And he was talking about the butt wink, and one of the things about the butt wink that that a lot of people said, like, I remember seeing a really good video with Johnny Candido talking about the butt wink. Is it okay? Is it not? And from my perspective is very similar. Like a reasonable amount of butt wink, some butt wink is okay as long as you have the strength and the skill capacity to do this stuff. It's totally all right to have a butt wink. However, I'm kind of in the camp that you should try your best to eliminate it as much as possible, because over time that will degrade you and wear you down and will give you problems. And just so you understand just the physics of a butt wink and how it all works out, when your spine is essentially loaded with a lot of weight, like a back squat or front squat or any squat for that matter, what ends up happening is the spine is loaded, you lower the weight, you go below parallel, and then your butt winks. What you're doing while you're loaded with weight on your back is you're causing the spine to go in posterior tilt. Not a big deal, right? That's normal human movement. So butt wink is all right if you're not loaded. But if you have weight on your back, like 300, 400, 500 pounds, what you're doing is if you have 400 pounds, 500 pounds on your back, and you are going into a butt wink at the bottom, even if it's a little bit, what you are doing is you're causing shear. So you're compressed with the weight on your back, along with going below and causing a butt wink, which is essentially shearing your spine. You're shearing those discs, and your body is able to tolerate a lot of that stuff. And if you want to lift, if you're young or you are very strong or you've been training a long time, you can tolerate a lot of that shearing. But if your goal is to be a powerlifter and really push your limits, I mean, it kind of depends on where you're at in your lifting career. If you're very skilled, then you can tolerate some. And you look at Jason Blaha's anatomy and how he's built, he's going to be okay because he has very thick legs, hamstrings, quads, calves, and just a structure that allows for him, even if he does butt wink, he's very well supported. But think about someone who has like smaller frame that does butt wink even more, even just a little bit, even the same amount as butt wink as Jason Blaha has, it'll be really bad because they don't have the support structure anatomically to support that. Because a lot of this has to do with what I learned with Kelly Starrett on Mobility WOD and watching all his videos. And I've run into, and I do butt wink a lot. The only time I don't butt wink, which is kind of interesting, is around over 300 pounds. My spine does not want the butt wink. One of the analogies that Kelly Starrett gave about the butt wink was he was talking about how what is it? That put 700 pounds on your back, like on a yoke. I forgot what you call it. Things like a yoke bar or a yoke carrying yoke rack, I think it's called. If you do that, try to go to posterior tilt while standing upright. It's just not going to happen. Your body's too afraid because that your spine wants to stay in neutral, especially when there's a shitload of weight on it, because it's unsafe for your spine. With small loads, it's okay. You can tolerate it. I see my daughter, she butt winks when she squats. She's not even 2 years old yet. I mean, it's a very small amount, but when you have load on your spine, which is something that you're not I won't say you're not designed to, but for powerlifting in that sense, you're trying to push your 1 rep max limit. It's understanding that you're trying your best to strive to remove that. And one of the things that I got from doing a consultation with Roop at San Francisco CrossFit about my spine and their viewpoint is very much so that you prioritize spinal mechanics first. So essentially you want a rigid spine, rigid, tight core, a very neutral lower back, and as you lower, you want to go down as low as you're able to maintain balance at the midfoot. When you maintain balance at the midfoot, that means keeping the weight balanced in your foot. So as you lower yourself, your spine does not posterior tilt, and you want to essentially train yourself to get to a point just before you begin to tilt. And this is sort of what I've been practicing. If you've watched some of my videos on kind of rebuilding my squat, essentially the last like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of light squatting, what I have been doing is I've been trying to essentially feel the way that is. When do I start the butt wink? And it's a little bit above parallel. And as I've gotten better at kind of pushing my knees out, tightening my core, improving my flexibility of my hips, I've been able to minimize that butt wink at the bottom. However, I still have this bad habit of creating that wink. Now, think of it like this. Maybe not you do some people butt wink at the bottom, but remember, the big problem also is that when you butt wink at the bottom, you have to sort of reverse butt wink on the way back up. Again, that's more shearing on the spine. Again, like I said, it's a risk. It's a risk that everyone's going to take, and it's not that big of a deal when there's light loads. But when you're near maximal, it's not something that you want to do over the long term. Again, this depends on the individual's anatomy and sort of your training age and a lot of different things. The other thing too is that so there's a risk for back injury, right? When you're shearing the spine heavily under large loads, causing a butt wink, even if it's a little bit. However, think of it like this too. If you're butt winking, the other place where your body's going to compensate is at the knee or at the ankle, basically below the hip or below the lower back, basically, where your knee is going to make a funny movement. It can cause some adduction at the knee. Depending on your anatomy and your strength and kind of where you're at, what's going to end up happening also is you're going to causing some issues at the knee joint eventually, depending on what you're doing. This is something that I've experienced. I started to experience knee problems because I was trying to front squat, and front squatting requires a lot of forward knee dorsiflexion, and you don't have dorsiflexion. The one thing that your body's going to try to do is get more spinal extension. Spinal extension, so more arching of the back to keep your body more upright. Totally all right. But the problem is if you don't have any more spinal extension and you don't have any more dorsiflexion, what's going to end up happening is that your knee is going to adduct. It's adduct, meaning that your knees are going to cave in. That's the only way your body's going to be able to essentially maintain, let's just say something like 200, 250 pounds on a front rack position, especially when you're going below parallel. Anyways, this is kind of a little, my opinion. I want to throw in my 2 cents about the butt wink. If you have any comments or any questions, please feel free to ask. And click like if this video was helpful. Thanks.